Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Subterranean Mysteries. Today, we're diving into a geological and historical enigma from China, a discovery so astonishing that it challenges modern engineering and recorded history. We're talking about the Longyou Caves.
Exactly. And what's most fascinating about this story isn't only what was found, but how it came to light.
The story begins in 1992 in a very quiet place, Longyou County, China. There, a small village called Shian Beikum relied on 5 rectangular ponds for everything: drinking, bathing, irrigation, and especially fishing.
And these ponds had been mysterious for generations. The villagers, simple farmers, believed they were unimaginably deep or even bottomless. They tried measuring the depth with long bamboo poles, but never touched the bottom. The mystery went back to ancient times, since it was said these pits had existed over 2,000 years before the birth of Christ.
2,000 years, and no one knew who carved them or whether they were artificial formations. It was a complete enigma, and there was one strict rule: children were constantly warned never to go near those waters. But as always, curiosity eventually triumphs over legend. Enter Vu Anai, a local farmer who, despite being afraid of them as a child, grew into an adult with an unshakable curiosity about what lay beneath.
And the spark, quite literally the fish out of water, that ignited that curiosity happened in 1992, when a villager caught a fish weighing almost 8 kilograms. They concluded that for a fish that size, there had to be plenty of space and food down there.
But the ponds on the surface didn't seem large enough for such growth. That's when Anai had what villagers called a crazy idea: drain the water to find the bottom.
At first, many were strongly opposed. They said it was their livelihood. If nothing was found, they'd waste their time and the water might take years to return to normal levels. But Anai convinced them, gathered money from neighbors, and bought a water pump. The process began, and they knew it could take days, possibly requiring round-the-clock shifts.
And the persistence paid off. In less than a week, as the water level dropped, something unusual began to emerge.
Exactly. Anai noticed what looked like structures. Something built. They quickly realized they were staircases carved by human hands. The perfect angles of the steps made it obvious this was no natural formation.
Excitement replaced disbelief. Pumping continued non-stop, and the entire community became mesmerized by the architecture hidden from humanity for countless generations. It took 17 days of continuous effort to drain that first pond completely.
When the water finally vanished, the revelation was astonishing. The body of water wasn't a pond at all. Vu Anai became the first modern man to step inside those relics.
And the descent was not easy. The steps were narrow, dangerously steep, and coated in millennia-old slime. With each step, the air grew colder and denser, with a mixture of ancient earth and a strange metallic scent.
He counted the steps, 20, 30, his legs burning. At the 60th step, the path opened into a void. He realized he was entering an enormous chamber.
And it truly was. His flashlight barely illuminated the vast stone walls around him. The structure was supported by dozens of stone pillars arranged with perfect organization and craftsmanship.
Research later revealed the dimensions. Roughly 115 square meters, more than twice the size of a tennis court, with ceilings reaching 30 meters high, equivalent to a 9 or 10-story building.
But what shocked both the villagers and later the specialists was the finishing. Every surface, from the massive pillars to the walls, was covered in perfectly parallel chisel marks, almost decorative, carved with such uniformity that it seemed impossible to have been done by humans thousands of years ago. And the preservation? It looked as though it had been carved yesterday.
After the descent, Vu Anai returned with others to gather witnesses, and soon the site, nicknamed the Shawn Stone Chambers and popularly known as the Longyou Caves, became the center of a flood of experts.
And the atmosphere quickly shifted from scientific curiosity to systematic isolation. Government officials, men in dark suits, appeared, and the site was cordoned off. Control was taken by government specialists and scholars, protected by China's secrecy laws.
And the mystery only deepened. The cavity Anai drained was not unique. It belonged to a complex of 24 distinct caves, all within just 1 square kilometer. Today, 10 of them remain almost perfectly preserved.
Uniformity is the key. Each cave has 4 strictly parallel walls, sharp edges, a steep incline on one side, and a 45-degree slope on the other. All shared a single vertical shaft entrance with staircases and elaborate drainage systems at the base.
Here lies the engineering paradox. The builders achieved something theoretically impossible. They excavated multiple adjacent chambers in total darkness while keeping them perfectly separated. In some sections, only 50 centimeters of solid rock separate one cave from another, precision with no accidental breaches.
The lack of records is perhaps the greatest enigma. Chinese authorities were baffled. Nothing like this appears in the nation's historical documents, not even in local legends.
And that's nearly impossible given ancient China's meticulous record-keeping. A construction of this scale, requiring thousands of workers, would not simply vanish from history. This is why some researchers suggest the records may have been deliberately erased, possibly a state secret.
Speaking of scale, China could not have hidden the raw material. It's estimated that about 1 million cubic meters of stone were removed to create these caves.
To visualize that amount of rock could fill 400 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And here's the logistical mystery. Not a trace of that stone exists anywhere around the site. It's as if it simply disappeared.
And then, the mystery of light. In an era before electricity, torches would have been used, leaving soot residue on the ceilings, as seen in other archaeological sites. But in the Longyou Caves, no soot has ever been found. The vertical entrances barely allow sunlight inside.
Based on ceramic fragments, archaeologists dated the construction to around 230 BCE, more than 2,200 years ago, during the Western Han Dynasty. Engineers calculated the manpower required, at least 1,000 workers, working in uninterrupted shifts for 6 years, just to excavate the 24 caves by hand.
So if these weren't quarries, as uniformity and lack of debris make that unlikely, what was the purpose of these massive excavations?
There are many theories. Some think they were secret military shelters, underground palaces, monumental tombs, or religious sanctuaries. But the absence of funerary items, relics, or signs of occupation weakens every hypothesis.
One plausible theory considers them gigantic cisterns, given the wide base and narrow top, ideal to reduce evaporation.
To complicate the geography further, in 2000, a similar complex was discovered nearly 200 kilometers away, the Ron Grottos. They show astonishingly similar decorative patterns and chisel marks, but with one key difference. They were built 1,500 years later, between 1551 and 1667. The stylistic and temporal connection remains a paradox.
The effort to solve this mystery became global. In 1999, China's Ministry of Culture and Tourism organized a symposium gathering international experts.
Yet even that concentrated effort couldn't break the silence of history. To this day, the purpose of the Longyou Caves remains a complete enigma, considered by many in China to be the 9th wonder of the ancient world.
It's a mystery that forces us to rethink what we truly know about ancient engineering. In Egypt, for instance, even with all the debates about the purpose of the pyramids, there are far more clues. But the ancient builders of Longyou, whoever they were, left nothing behind.
It's as if history had been sealed airtight for 2,200 years. And when opened, we found an entire library where every book was perfectly carved, yet every title and author name erased.
A perfect reflection. We'll continue following updates on the Longyou Caves in our next episode.